Hey guys, this is Ryan. In this video, we're going to go over how to audit a client's AdWords account or your own account. So this is going to be high-level principles and low-hanging fruit for optimizing your campaign. So I made it in sort of a checklist form so you can just go straight down this video and make these improvements to your own campaign, or check out a client's pre-sale to understand their mindset and whether you can improve their campaigns in the first place. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into it. This is quite a long video. I believe I haven't totally edited it yet, so stick with me here. I'm giving you everything that I can. We're not going to get too far in the weeds, but I'm going to give you the high-level information and pretty much everything that I would do in the first place. So enjoy. Cheers. Okay guys, the first thing that I like to do when jumping in a client campaign is to go over to the change history. This serves a couple purposes, but the main purpose is for pre-sales audits when you're trying to get a sense of what this customer or prospect knows and what their mindset is. In general, you can see, first off, whether they're actually managing their account, and based on prior conversations you had with them, you can deduce or induce some sort of knowledge about how they think, and that can inform you whether you want to go forward with them or not. But either way, this is going to give you a sense of how much they know and whether they're actually actively managing their account. Or let's say that you're going into their account and looking at a campaign that someone else is already managing for them. If they're not doing that much to the account itself, you can go back to that client and kind of use that as leverage to get your foot back in the door. But either way, this is the first thing I check. Then you want to check their conversions. So make sure that they have conversions set up for pretty much every action that you could think of. So a conversion from a phone extension, a form submission, a get directions. So that would be your location extension. If they have get directions on their website, you want to be measuring that with Google Analytics. And you also want to be measuring calls from the website. So there's multiple different conversions that can happen. This is like the most important part about running a good Google AdWords campaign. So make sure this is up. If they don't have it up, then you can definitely improve their campaign right off the bat. Next, jump over to the negative keyword list area. This could be under the shared list section of Google AdWords dashboard, or it could just be under their specific ad groups. So double check both of those locations and just make sure that A, they have negatives in their account, and then B, those negative lists are extensive. So they're actually targeting not just generic terms, but terms that are relevant to their industry, that are shoulder terms that are kind of go hand in hand with the keywords that they're targeting, but are bringing in negative searches that don't produce conversions. So negatives are really important, and if they don't have negative lists, this is huge. This is a quick win for you. All you got to do is put that in. You'll probably get a lot better cost per lead. Next up, check their default Google settings. So just go into a single campaign and then go to their settings and check their networks. So by default, this is going to have it on search networks. So you kind of want to disclude this in most cases. It's not always the case that you want to disclude networks, but if they have this on, what you can do is go back to the campaigns area and click segment and segment by the networks, and you can get a sense of what CPL or cost per lead you're getting for the network itself. And if a lot of those clicks are not turning into conversions, then just go ahead and turn this off. But for the most part, a lot of just local businesses, I'll just start with this off in the beginning. So if it's on, turn it off. Next, I'll check the ad rotation. Google will pre-optimize for the most part. So I'll change the ad rotation to do not optimize and retain control of that myself. So you want your ads to be getting equal amount of impressions and ideally clicks, but you want this to happen so that you can make the judgment on what is actually performing better or not. I found that Google just optimized it too soon to the point where you don't get proper optimization. So I would just stick with maintaining control whenever possible. Second, check the locations and how they're targeting the location. You can click the additional location options at the bottom there, and it will open up this little down panel area, or down drop panel. And by default, this is going to be on people in and searching for your location. This is not necessarily that big of a deal, but For the most part, I like to split up campaigns. So I'll split campaigns by terms that don't include geo modifiers. So if we said dentist in Boston, that would be a geo modifier. With a campaign that targets those type keywords that indicate where they're looking for, I'll leave it on default for people in and searching for. But if I'm targeting generic keywords that don't have that geo modifier, I'll make two campaigns, one for people in your target area and one for people searching for. That way you can judge, make it a little bit more granular and see like what is performing best. If they don't have it split up like this, this is an optimization that you can do. The next account setting you want to check is if you just go back to all campaigns in the top left there, and then you click account settings, then you'll come to this page here. And what I like to do is turn on call reporting first off, assuming that you're HIPAA compliant and that your industry can use this. Most industries can. As well as message reporting if that's something that you want to test out as well. But most importantly, go to the bottom here, and this is a setting that I found a few months ago. But this is basically it's basically optimizing your ads automatically, and it's kind of hidden in the back of your campaigns. So make sure that this is turned off. Most people are going to have this turned on. It's on by default, so just change that to the second option there. Next, check out bid strategies and what the client is using. So these are all the different strategies that you can use on a campaign, and I'll just quickly go over a general rule. For the most part, I'm starting campaigns on manual CPC to retain control of the bids. If you start with some of these optimization strategies, everything above that line, then it turns out either A, it takes a long time for your account to start getting data, or B, it just won't be effective because your account's not going to ever get enough conversions to justify using any of these. So think of it this way. If you're optimizing based off of, let's see here, clicks, and you're a local business, you'll get a decent amount of clicks for most local businesses, like 100 to 200 to 300 a month, and that's enough data for Google to optimize for. But let's say you're trying to do target CPA, which is target cost per action, so cost per conversion basically, but you're only getting like 10 to 15 conversions a month in your campaigns, then that's probably not going to be effective. It doesn't have enough data to spot patterns and to just optimize automatically. So for the most part, when you don't have a lot of data to work with, stick with the more manual stuff or the stuff that optimizes earlier on in the process. So like, let's see here, target impression share. That's one that I want to test out and I haven't yet. Target search page location, target outrank share. Yeah, you could do that. Maximize clicks is one that I use, but in general, I'll start with manual CPC and then I'll switch over to maximize clicks later on, just so you have data to work off of. So next up, let's look at their keyword section. You want to look to see if they're using broad match keywords, so the keywords without any symbols on them. Broad match modify is good with the plus symbol, phrase is good with the quotes, and exact is good with the brackets. But if they have a lot of keywords that are just broad match, kind of redundant, just long tail, and it looks clearly like they don't know what they're doing, that could be a quick fix by just simply using match types in the first place. So in general, Google says you can go up to 20 keywords in an ad group, but I like to keep things tighter. So if they get a lot of different keywords too, you can tighten up their ad groups, just like you see here, which only has 3 keywords. Keeps things tight around a certain intent, and your ads will speak more directly to the people that they're getting in front of, so you'll get higher click-through rates, a better quality score, better cost per click, and better cost per lead as well. And plus, it just makes it easier for you to optimize in the first place. Next up, let's check their average CPC compared to the budgets. So if the budget and the average CPC are pretty close, then you're gonna get something like this where you get limited by budget. Or if your average CPC is really high and you're using enhanced feature, so I was using CPC enhanced in this case, then you can get this limited by budget, which sometimes will reduce the amount of impressions that your account is getting, or all in all, just like cancel out all your ads, so you won't even get any impressions. This just happens when your CPC is just too high relative to your budget. So if this is the case, they could be limiting how much reach they're getting, and it may be the case where they need to increase their budget or decrease their bids and or shut off any sort of enhanced and optimization feature and just switch to manual bidding. But for the most part, a general good rule of thumb is their budget should be around 5 times higher than their average CPC, and you should be good in that case. While we're here, check the search impression share. If you're not seeing this, it's not naturally in the Google dashboard area, so what you'll have to do is modify your columns and throw that in there. Search impression share is going to show you what percentage of the total searches made for the keywords that you're targeting your ads got in front of. So it's like a market share metric. It's showing just how effective and how much of that market you're getting. If your client, this is kind of a case-by-case basis, but if your client is struggling with getting enough results from their campaign, this is something you got to listen to in the early conversations, then it may be the case where you just need to bump up your bids, because this is the fastest way to increase search impression share. The more you're willing to bid, the higher Google's going to put you, and the more searches it's going to put you in front of. There's other ways to improve the search impression share through click-through rates, ad relevance, landing page relevance, but these are generally slower. And you can improve those with all the optimization strategies we're talking about here, but in general, the fastest way is just bumping bids. Just keep in mind that bumping bids like that is generally going to correlate to a higher cost per lead. So keep that in mind. Also, check their spend in the past 30 days by going to the overview page and just setting up these metrics and changing the date filter. And you'll see that this one is around $1,400. In the past month, and it's set at $50 per day, so they're pretty much hitting their budget. But if they're way under budget, then that's something that you might want to bring up or just bring down their budget in the first place. Next up, check their location targeting, so the exact locations that they're targeting in the first place. This is actually in the keyword section. I just didn't want to give away my client's information. This was just easier to use and to demonstrate the point I'm trying to make here. It may be the case where they are targeting something too tight, like a too small of an area, or it may be the case where they're targeting too big of an area. It's all dependent on what their needs are, but you may be able to increase the volume of leads coming in simply by targeting a wider radius, and then B, splitting it up into individual zones, so individual towns or zip codes. And doing it this way allows you to turn off certain areas and turn on other ones. So it's just making your data more granular. So you can do one of those. You can expand it or narrow the campaign, keep it the same, or at the very least make it granular instead of just a bulk radius or something like that. Sometimes the radius is just easier to do, but you can make the campaign slightly better further down the road by just splitting it up, and then you can turn some on and off and just do bid adjustments by area. Next up, you can take this granular idea to the ad schedules. So go to the ad schedule section of the dashboard and make sure that they have multiple blocked areas. If they don't, if they just have single blocked days, then what you can do is split it up into smaller intervals. And the benefit of doing this is mostly down the road when you're optimizing with a lot of data in the campaign. But you can place bid adjustments based on time periods throughout the day. Based on what's converting the best and what's not. Otherwise, you can't. A good rule of thumb is the more you can split data up and isolate it, the better off the campaign is going to be, both in the short term and the long term. So any chance that you can see that you can split up data more, might as well do it. Next, jump back to the campaign dashboard, and it may be the case where they have multiple campaigns set up. If so, that's good. It means they generally have a better idea than most people about what they're doing. But second, it allows you to, it makes the data granular, so it allows you to make adjustments at a campaign level. And you might see that some campaigns are performing way better than others. And if that's the case, then you could go ahead and just shut it off. Or you'll see one that's performing worse than another one, but you don't want to shut it off because you need to keep the volume in the first place. What you could do is just do micro adjustments, so decreased in bids, and go in there and look at the ad groups, because you can do the same exact thing with ad groups. So look at the ad groups, which ones are performing best, which ones are performing worse, If some ad groups are getting a bunch of impressions but no clicks, might want to shut them off. If ad groups are getting a bunch of clicks but no conversions, might want to shut them off or decrease bids or adjust the landing page. There's multiple things you can do, so I can't really go over all those, but this is the general process. Just dig down deeper and figure out which layers you can shut off, turn on, improve, and change. Look at the keyword section as well, because you can do the same exact thing with the keywords. As you can see in this one, we would most likely decrease the bids of the broad match modified just slightly, ever so slightly, just to see if we can bring down that cost per conversion a little bit more. Staying on the theme of adjusting bids, you can jump over to the device section. Preferably you do this at an ad group level. As you can see on the left panel, I'm selecting a specific ad group. You got to keep in mind how much data is in the account, because if there's not a lot of data, you can't do this in the first place. But it may be the case where one ad group is pulling in a lot of volume. Just look at the highest volume ad group in the highest volume campaign, and just go to the device section and see if there's enough data in this to do a quick optimization, because this is perhaps something the client doesn't know about, and you can quickly improve their campaign by, let's say for this one, decreasing bids by 35% on the tablets. We'll probably reduce the cost per lead on tablets to around 100, and our total cost per lead is going to drop pretty significantly. You can do bid adjustments on the ad schedule area as well. So go to ad schedule and then day, and it's going to show you by day which is performing worse. Just filter it by cost per conversion so you can see the worst ones at the bottom. And you can see here that Saturday, Sunday, Friday, and sort of Wednesday are performing the worst. So basically what I would do in this case is place negative adjustments on these days. And you can break it down even more if you have a lot of data in the account, and you can just do it by time during the day. But at the start, I'll just do it day-wide. I'll just put a negative adjustment on Sunday or Saturday, or both of those. And then I'll go by time period that I split it up, and I'll adjust that negative up or down depending on how well each time of the day is performing. Next up, go to demographics, and once again, this is if there's already data in the campaign and if there's a lot of it. Immediately, let's say you know that their service is just not going to perform well with 18 to 24, like you're very confident, and or it's just not their target audience, like their services are much higher than normal, the pricing at least, then you could go ahead and just shut off all the 18 to 24. Look at the data, of course, to see like how it's performing across the entire account, but you could go ahead and turn those off. The same with the opposite extreme with 65 plus. Those in some industries will perform a lot worse. So just keep that in mind. But for the most part, you want to look at each of these demographics by ad group. So single ad groups like I have selected here. This is for the gender. Gender is a pretty good one because it's only split by 3 different metrics: unknown, female, and male. So you have more data. Your data is split up less, so you can optimize sooner. This is hard to explain. But for this one, I'd probably put a negative on the unknown. But yeah, you can just do that, find quick wins like that. Then household income, same thing, but this one's split a little bit more. Next up, check out their extensions area and just make sure that they're using extensions in the first place. And if they are, make sure the extensions are like written correctly based off of, you know, some market research, and make adjustments based on the data that's already in there. And then make sure that they're using all the extensions that they should be. So for the most part, call extensions are pretty good. It depends on the industry, right? So call extensions, location extensions, and then promotions, pricing. It really depends on your industry, but if they're lacking an extension and not testing that, you probably should be testing it. You can also modify the columns here to look at the conversions, cost per conversion, conversion rate, just to get a better sense of how each extension is performing. So you may even choose to turn some off or write a couple new ones based on that data. Okay, last up, look at their ads. You don't need to look at all their ads, just go to like one of their highest volume campaigns and ad groups and see what they're writing for ads and whether they're doing it correctly. First, just make sure that they're split testing, so make sure they at least have 2 ads written in there. You don't necessarily need 3 like Google says. If you're a small like business and you're not gonna get that much traffic in your campaign for the most part, I would say just stick with 2 because you're gonna be able to make decisions a lot sooner. If you have three different ads in here, even if you're split testing, you're gonna have to wait for data for each one of those ads, and you'll need a significant amount of conversions to make a valid judgment. Most people want to optimize too soon, but you need to wait for conversions to come in a decent amount. And with 3 ads and at a local level, sometimes it's going to take too long. It's going to take multiple months. So stick with 2 for the most case, unless you know you get a lot of volume. Then second, make sure that you're using the keywords somewhere in your ad text, preferably in the H1 if possible. H2 is fine as well, but somewhere in the main headlines. Look to see what type of ads they're using in the first place. It could be responsive, expanded, call only. I would use expanded in most cases. And then thirdly, make sure that they're leveraging all the different headlines for expanded. For the most part, you're going to get better click-through rates if you use the H3 as well. I could be wrong on that, but so far what I've seen in my campaigns, that's been the case. They perform better than just using the standard 2, as well as the extra description. Make sure that's filled out as well. The fifth, make sure that in general they pop. So try to get your ads to pop out in terms of using camel case, which is uppercase first letters for every first letter. And then leverage like symbols a lot and punctuation as much as possible. So if you use like number signs, numbers, symbols, odd text or odd phrasing, weird words, anything that like sticks out. Or I've even seen ads that probably perform really good because they're spending a lot of money where they did undercase when they shouldn't have, like the punctuation was wrong. It's just something that is out of the norm, you know. The very last thing is make sure that well, I didn't even talk about split testing, so make sure that you're split testing correctly, which I'm actually not doing right in this picture right here. Split testing is changing one variable, so the H1 in this scenario changed for both of those. So one is dynamic keyword insertion, the other one has just a static one, and the H2 changed as well, but the H2 shouldn't be changing. The second one should be 5-star rated online, so there should be no difference. But either way, if I saw this in an account right here and both of these were on, I turned the other one off because you can see the cost per conversion is way higher, and it's got significant conversions in here, but you can get a quick win immediately by doing that. So yeah, now very lastly, just make sure that they're speaking to the emotion of their customers and their ads aren't just generically written. The more that you can do that sticks out from the competition, sticks out from the search results, and speaks to the customer that you're trying to get in front of, the better. It's going to improve your click-through rates, it's going to improve your cost per lead, and just generally this is one of the biggest things that you can change about a campaign. That's it for the video, guys. Hopefully you found this useful for auditing either a client's campaigns or your own campaign. As mentioned, these are general optimization principles, so you can use this to improve existing campaigns or just to sell a client in the first place. So if it's pre-sale, you'll want to update them with what you found in their account. This could just be a simple templated spreadsheet of all the changes that you would suggest. I wouldn't go about telling them literally everything we went over in this video because that's a lot of value. Give them some value and keep the rest for yourself because you don't want to just give away the bacon like I'm doing in this video. But either way, hopefully you found this useful. If you have any sort of questions, put those in the comments below because I know I covered some high-level information and tried to go as fast as I can without rambling through or missing anything. Lastly, I have a link in the description area below as well to my auditing services. So if you just don't want to do this or you need someone who understands AdWords a little bit better, just click that link and I'll audit either your own campaign or one of your clients. If you found this useful, please give a like or dislike. It doesn't really matter. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.